We are on Parsha Vayakhel, which is Parsha Vayakhel is Shemot 35, 1 all the way through 38:10, I believe. And I forgot to bring my notes down, but that's all right. As you know, your pastor kind of studies until it's trapped up here, and then we just kind of run with it. And so that's why sometimes it seems better, and sometimes, yeah. Yeah, Brother John back there laughing. Depends on how the circuitry is working. Hopefully today its circuitry is working well.
My freeze kicked in, my back feels better, that's why I'm smiling.
Oh, good. Well, we are going to be in Exodus 35 here shortly, but I'm going to do this a little different. Instead of starting in the Parsha, I think we're going to start in the explanation of the Parsha. And I just want to pick up a story that's very familiar to you because I think it relates to the story that we're going to pick up on tonight as we get to Parsha Vayakhel. Which is, our Parsha tonight comes from where it says that in 35:1, and Moshe gathered all the children. And so that word gathered is where we get Vayakhel at. And interestingly enough, last week when we did this, it was a double Parsha, meaning that it was two Parshas brought together. And I should have made mention of this before. I don't know that I have. Sometimes there's more than one Parsha a week. Sometimes there's only a Parsha a week, and it's because of the Jewish calendar. The Jewish calendar is a lunar calendar. But because it gets so out of order with our normal calendar, which is a solar calendar, in order for them to walk with regular normal society, what do they have to do every so often? They have to fix it. Just like, by the way, the Asian people do, the Orientals do. They also have to fix their calendar because they celebrate the year of the dog and the cat and the pig and the baboon and all the other stuff that they celebrate. Theirs is also a lunar calendar. And so what they have to do is add in things to get their calendar back right. And so the Jewish calendar, which is a lunar calendar, every 19 years, you have to add in 7 extra months during those 19 years. So you intersperse 7 extra months out of every 19 years. So what it comes up to is every 2 to 3 years, you're adding a month. So you go 2 or 3 years, and then you add a month, 2 or 3 years, you add a month, 2 or 3 years, you add a month. And so that month that they normally add, if I remember right, is called Adar the second. So they always make the month of Adar has a single month, and then it has another month that follows right after it that's also called Adar. And it's usually in the wintertime. But anyway, that is why last year they had 2 of them jammed together. This year we have them separated because we have the extra month. But here in 1 Samuel chapter 17, we're going to kind of pick up there, and like I say, we'll go back to the Parsha here shortly. But I wanted to look first at 1 Samuel. Let's see here. Where do we want to pick up at? Let's pick up here in verse 12. 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 12, it says, "Now David was the son of that Ephrathite of Bethlehem, Judah, whose name was Jesse." Now, by the way, as we've talked about before, why is he saying Bethlehem, Yehuda? And that is because there are other Bethlehems around the country. Just like there are, by the way, in our state here. I've always been amazed when I drive semi that we have multiple cities in this, or towns, I should say, in this state that are the same name, but it's different counties. And so it was the same true in Israel. And so when they're saying Bethlehem, Yehuda, they're saying that's Bethlehem in the tribal area or tribal allotment of Judah. And so David, the son of the Ephrathite of Bethlehem, Yehuda, whose name was Jesse, which means beloved, which is kind of a neat name. And he had 8 sons, and the man went among men for an old man in the days of Shaul. And of course, his name means to demand, or to ask for, or to entreat. And the 3 eldest sons of Jesse went and followed Shaul to the battle. And the names of the 3 sons that went to the battle were Eliab, his firstborn, the next unto him, Abinadab, and the third was Shammah. And David was the youngest. By the way, I know I've also taught you this before, but whenever you say a Hebrew word, this emphasis is always the second syllable. So if you remember that, you usually are going to get the saying right. In other words, the Hebrew word is right because it's not Shama, it's Shema. Or Eliav. Eliav. There we go. Eliav. Or Abinadav. There we go. Abinadab. There we go. We got to get it on the second syllable. Anyway, but David went and returned from Shaul to feed his father's sheep at Bethlehem. And the Philistine drew near every morning and presented himself 40 days. And yes, he said unto David his son, take now for thy brethren an ephah of this parched corn and these 10 loaves, and run to the camp to thy brethren and carry these 10 cheeses. By the way, he'd already been there once before, right? Because you remember he was playing his music for Saul, trying to soothe him. But he got sent home when the Philistines showed up on the doorstep and were about to go to war with them in the valley of Elah, which is, I don't remember the exact number. I'm going to say it's got to be 15 or 20 miles away from Jerusalem, so it's not very far from their capital that they are at. They're just to the south and west of Jerusalem. And anyway, so he is now sent by his daddy to go back, check on his brothers, see how they're doing, what's the status of the battle and all that. And so he says, carry these 10 cheeses unto thy captain of their 1,000, and look how thy brethren fare, and take their pledge. And when it says take their pledge, he wants something to be brought back to know that his boys are okay. And so that term pledge also can be talking about if they were fighting of their own means, which sometimes kings would do. They would literally conscript you to battle, but you have to pay for your own way in their battle. And so that can also be used in that manner, but your pastor prefers the interpretation that here we're talking about, he just wants something to know that his boys are all right. And so, I believe that that's how it ought to be interpreted, just because it says, look how thy brethren fare. So when he's talking about pledges there, he's not talking about paying for the debts that they may have incurred while they're fighting in a battle for Saul, but I think it's more about, he just wants to know his 3 oldest boys are all right. It says, now Shaul and they and all the men of Israel were in the valley of Elah fighting with the Philistines. And David rose up early in the morning and left the sheep with a keeper, and took and went as Jesse had commanded him. And he came to the trench as the host was going forth to the fight, and shouted for the battle. For Israel and the Philistines had put the battle in array, army against army. And David left his carriage in the hand of the keeper of the carriage, and ran into the army, and came and saluted his brethren. And as he talked with them, behold, there came up the champion, the Philistine of Gat. And again, that is how it's said in there, and I've been to Gat before, but Gat, like it's G-O-T, is how it sounds when they say it. So the Philistine of Gat, Goliath by name, out of the armies of the Philistines, and spake according to the same words, and David heard them. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him. Oh boy. And were sore afraid. And the men of Israel said, have you seen this man that has come up? Surely to defy Israel is he come up, and it shall be, listen to this, it shall be that the man who killeth him, the king will enrich him with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel. And of course, free meaning that no longer would they have to pay taxes to the king. That's not a bad situation. No matter how you do the rest of your life, you're no longer paying taxes to the government. That's a pretty good deal. All you got to do is go fight for the king. Now, for some of you that don't know that, that's why sometimes our contractors like to work for the American government. If you go over to Israel, or you go over to Afghanistan, or you go to Tajikistan, or wherever we happen to be doing something with the government, when you're working for them in a foreign place, oftentimes they make your wages duty-free there. So your money adds up really fast. I've known people that have gone over there for 2 years and come back with $500,000 because it's not taxable. So that's something that not only happened at this time, but still does happen. There are times when the king sends you on a duty and he will make you tax exempt. That can be a really nice benefit to have. And so that's what he's offering here. And he says, so the king's going to make you rich, and he's going to give you his daughter, and he's going to make your father's house free in Israel. And as you can imagine, that's quite the motivator. Especially if you got some young men with a little bit of testosterone going on, and they go, I got this. I can do this. I'm going to make my family free of having to pay any taxes. We're going to get rich. We're going to have $500,000, you know. We just got to do a little bit of work, a little bit of service and all that. And so let's go back over to Exodus chapter 35. And here in Exodus chapter 35, it starts with Moshe gathering all the congregation of the children of Israel together, and he says unto them, these are the words which the Lord hath commanded you, that you should do them. And he starts out by reminding them about Shabbat. And we have talked about Shabbat before, so I'm not going to spend too much time there, but as you know, Shabbat is a time when they are supposed to rest from their works, and they're supposed to put their faith in the fact that God is going to take care of them. And so instead of them working 7 days a week, they're going to work 6 days a week. And 1 day a week, they're going to choose not to work, and God is going to provide for their needs. You say, I can't get everything done, and I can't make all the money that I need in 6 days. God says you can. And so he encourages them to give up that 1 day a week, and they're not supposed to work for themselves. And of course, as I've taught you before, we don't have time to spend on a sermon doing that, but it's not that you can't do anything. You can't work for yourself. And so there, you know, if your neighbor's ox is in a ditch, or the ass has fallen into a ditch, yes, you can do the work to get that ass out of the ditch, because again, it shouldn't have to suffer for a whole day of just staying in the ditch until the next day to get out of there. No, you can help that ass out. But again, you're not doing it for your own benefit or to make money. You may be doing it to alleviate somebody else's or to ameliorate somebody else's misery. That you're allowed to do. And that also, by the way, explains why the priests were able to work in the temple on Shabbat. Realize that they're offering the morning and the evening sacrifice, but they're doing it for the people. They're not doing it for their own benefit, although it does help them, because they also need that sacrifice to be offered every day, but it's for the sake of the people of Israel. And so he reminds them about that and tells them in verse 3 that verse 2, they're supposed to rest. Number 3, they're not supposed to light a fire throughout their habitations upon Shabbat day, which for those who don't know this is also why some of these things have creeped over into their modern day practices. You will not have a Jewish person flip a light switch on Shabbat. You say, why? Well, if you could actually look behind the light switch when they're flipping that light switch, do you know what you would see back there? When a light switch is switched on and off, some of you might know this, you'll see a spark. Well, that's kindling a fire. And the rabbis say you're not allowed to do that. So no turning on or off a light while it's Shabbat. So if you ever see a Jewish home, what you will see is before Shabbat starts, they will turn on the lights in the rooms that they want to be lit, and they will turn off the lights in their bedrooms because nobody wants to sleep with the light on. And so they may have the light on out in the hallway, but they're not going to have the light on in the bedroom, because once Shabbat starts, they can't turn it on or off, because if they do, it will create a spark, and they're not allowed to do a spark. And so if they end up for some reason needing, for an emergency sake, to turn on that light, what they're going to do is they're going to run out into the hallway of their apartment or their house, or maybe run over to their neighbor's house, and they're going to say, Nelson, can you come over and turn on this light for me? And the reason why they're doing it is because they can't do it, but because you're a Gentile, you're not under their rules. And they would be more than glad to have you come over and help them out, because you can do things they're not allowed to do. And so many times when you're in a building where the Jewish people are living there, they like to have at least 1 or 2 Gentiles in the building so that they can do things for them on Shabbat that they're not allowed to do themselves. Huh? They're not allowed to turn on or off the oven, but, you know, the Gentile neighbor can.
Didn't they stone some guy who was picking up sticks?
Yes, they did. Numbers chapter 15, yes. And we may talk about that on another day, but I'm just saying, yes. So there are a lot of rules that have been added by the rabbis. As a matter of fact, I think I heard the number. Biblically speaking, I think there's only a few, I don't even know if it's 100 rules about the Sabbath and what you're allowed to do and not do, but the rabbis have made thousands of rules. And honestly, it's nearly impossible to even follow all the rules because the rabbis have created so many, it's really hard to know all of them.
You gotta stay strapped to a chair on that day.
Yeah, there you go. Not get in trouble. But then he goes on to talk about verse 5. He says, "Take ye from among you an offering unto the Lord, whoever is of a willing heart. Let him bring it, an offering of the Lord, gold and silver and brass and blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen and goat's hair and ram skins dyed red and badger skins and shittim wood and oil for the light and spices for anointing oil and for the sweet incense and onyx stones and stones to be set for the ephod and for the breastplate. And every wise-hearted among you shall come and make all that the Lord hath commanded." And then he goes through and describes all of this stuff. Then it says down in verse 20, and this is where we're trying to get to, "And all the congregation of the children of Israel departed from the presence of Moshe. And they came, every one whose heart stirred him up, and every one whom his spirit made willing. And they brought the Lord's offering to the work of the tabernacle of the congregation, and for all his service, and for the holy garments. And they came, both men and women, as many as were willing-hearted, and brought bracelets, and earrings, and rings, and tablets, and all jewels of gold. And every man that offered an offering of gold unto the Lord. And every man with whom was found blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine linen, and goat's hair, and red skins of rams, and badger skins, brought them. Every one that did offer an offering of silver and brass brought the Lord's offering, and every man with whom was found shittim wood for any work of the service brought it. And all the women that were wise-hearted did spin with their hands, and brought that which they had spun, both of blue and of purple and of scarlet and of fine linen. And all the women whose heart stirred them up in wisdom spun goat's hair. And the rulers brought onyx stones, and stones to be set for the ephod and for the breastplate, and spice and oil for the light, and for the anointing oil, and for the sweet incense." Now, I don't know if you've noticed this, but to me it's fascinating because nobody is left out here. Not one. Nobody is left out on the giving. And you say, why? Because everybody can give as one, they're willing, and as they have ability. And can we all give the same? The answer is no. The Jews bring out in this story, which I find interesting, they say, why did the leaders wait till last? I think there was a reason why the leaders were mentioned last, and that is because the people were able to provide almost everything that was needed to build that tabernacle and to build all the clothing. But there was something significant that the people in general didn't have, and what was that? Precious gems. Because that is something that only really the wealthy have. The wealthy are going to have gold when nobody else has it. The wealthy are going to have the specialized gems when nobody else has it. If it's going to be somebody that has a $8,000 rock on their finger, who's that going to be? It's going to be the well-to-do people. And so God had a place for every single one in the community, no matter what their position financially in the community was. Everybody could do something for the benefit of the Lord's work. It goes on to tell us, I don't know if you're there, sister, but that's why I read that last, is those leaders were able to do something nobody else was. And what was that? Bring those onyx stones. And if you've ever seen my high priest outfit, those onyx stones are massive. And if they're real onyx, you're talking about a king's ransom. So, they needed a Steve Jobs, or they needed a Elon Musk to bring those stones, because otherwise they're not going to happen. And what else is interesting is, according to what we read here and according to Jewish tradition as well, each of the stones that was on the breastplate is for each one of the tribes. And so each one of the tribes brought the stone for their tribe. So one of their wealthy men in their group, in their tribe, in their family, was able to bring that very precious, precious stone with their name inscribed on it, and to be able to give that as a gift. Now, what to me is even more amazing is not just what they've given so far, but then when it says after that, let's see if I can find the passage here. It says, here it is. And it says, verse 3 of chapter 36, "And they received of Moshe all the offering which the children of Israel had brought for the work of the service of the sanctuary to make it withal. Now realize that as soon as they were told about what's going on, what are all the women doing? They are weaving everything that they can. They're making as much yarn and thread as they can. They're making up as much of the curtains as they can. Why? Because someday you're going to see your handiwork at the tabernacle forever. Your handiwork is going to be on display forever. That must have been a thrill to anybody that got to have a part of that you actually get to see your handiwork and it's never going to go away. It's always going to be there. But they were so excited about it that as soon as they heard about it, they're going back home and going, well, honey, you need to manage the goats and you need to manage the sheep because I got some work to do. I've got to get some of this material done because we're going to have our names in lights. Amen? And you say, that's why I wanted to bring in David and what happened there in his fight is realize that people can be motivated for a lot of different reasons. When they give, some people give just because they get the joy in the giving. And honestly, that ought to come for everybody, the joy in giving. I had a dear friend of mine years ago. We were in a church that had a rather large youth group that came in. We brought in on buses. We had, I believe it was 14 or 16 bus routes at the time. And on a good day, our bus in particular only seated about maybe 70 people. I can remember days when we had 120 to 140 on that bus. Way, way, way beyond its capacity. We would call it Marshmallow Sunday. I'm quite serious, because we told them they were all marshmallows and that we could squeeze in. But, so you know what I'm talking about, yeah. So you can get in there, and I'm trying to remember now why I was bringing up about the motivations for why you do some of those things. Some people like that idea of being recognized for various things. I mean, some people are going to come because of a prize. Some people are going to come because of the work itself. Some are going to come because they get the pat on the back from somebody. It can all be for various different reasons. But these folks had something that many people will never have, and what is that? Getting to show off their work forever. So, for example, this pulpit right here, that some of you don't notice because it sits right here in the middle of us all the time. A man built this. And he built this off of your pastor drawing it on a napkin. And I hope we still have that napkin somewhere. I don't know if we do. I haven't looked for that in a long time, but I bet you we have it somewhere probably in a folder upstairs in one of our file cabinets. But I drew this exact, it looks exactly like what I drew on the napkin. But I said to him, I have a Torah scroll that's mine, my personal Torah scroll, and I said, I'm going to give it to our congregation someday. When we get this church started, I'm going to give them my Torah scroll, and it's going to be sitting inside of this thing, and this is what I wanted to do. And I said, I even want it to be able to have where it has a pull out, where you could pull that out. And I said, if they're celebrating a special day, and they want to celebrate with the Torah, I want them to be able to pull it out, throw it over their shoulders, and dance around the room if that's what they want to do. And he said, I think I could do that. Now, for that particular man, by the way, he didn't want anybody to know what he did. He's with the Lord now. But people see his work all the time. We have another man in here who built all of our missionary boards.
Genius.
And spent a lot of hours putting them all together.
Yes.
Lots and lots of hours. Someday when he's no longer here to remind us that he did it, it doesn't change the fact that people will still be looking at our missionary boards that were built by him. And so what I'm saying is motivations for what we do can be for different reasons. Some people don't need anybody to acknowledge what they do. Some people are quite content to just do something. Why? Because they know it's for the God that saved them. They know it's for the God that changed their lives. And they're just grateful that they have some way to give back to that God. And so they're quite pleased to do whatever it takes to make that difference in that congregation. And I just want to encourage you that we all have that opportunity. We all have different abilities, meaning that maybe not all of us can weave, maybe not all of us can make the yarn, maybe not all of us can engrave stones. But there isn't anybody in this story that was left out. Nobody. Just as for that story with King David, as he had an opportunity there to take down Goliath, the truth is the only thing that was holding them back was the belief that God could do it. You say, how do I know that? Because David believes that God's all-powerful, and he makes those statements right before he goes off to fight him. Later on, we find out that there's a time when the Philistines are attacking them, and Saul's son Jonathan is with his armor bearer. And the Philistines are standing on the top of a mountain. And Jonathan said, hey, you want to go up there with me and we can go wipe them all out? And his armor bearer goes, if you believe God would have us to do that, I'm with you. And he goes on the faith of Jonathan, his warrior, that he is the armor bearer. Now, armor bearer, what does that mean? He's the guy that kind of stands in front of him while his master is hurling spears or doing things that are at a distance, maybe shooting a bow. And his armor bearer is standing in front of him while he's doing this thing so he doesn't get killed while he's trying to take out the other side. But he said, if you're willing to go up there and you believe God can do it, hey, let's do this thing. And I'm just telling you that every one of us has a role. Every one of us has ability to make a difference in society. Every one of us has ability even here. I was thinking about some of you saying about different contacts you've had with different people. Who can fill up this congregation? Who can bring new people in? Any of us? It doesn't have to be a pastor. A pastor doesn't have to go out there and talk to everybody on the street and fill up the place. All we have to do is be willing to talk to people. Brother Joe talking about that person going through hard times. I assure you, when they're going through hard times, you invite them to a movie on Tuesday and say, hey, there's going to be an encouraging movie on Tuesday. And they come and they feel the love of Christ when they're here. That can be done right here. Doesn't have to be the leadership. It doesn't have to be the princes. Doesn't need to be the people with the wealth. Needs to be somebody that's going to be able to be willing to use those skills, that persuasion, that friendship, that opportunity that they have that maybe other people don't have to make a difference in this life. And so I know sometimes it does take opportunities like us recognizing some things, and I'm not against that. I do try to recognize when you all are doing different things around the building, because a lot of you do help a lot, and I'm grateful for everything that you do help with. I'm even grateful for, and as I haven't told you all yet, but I would like to send something to the dear man that came over to be our exterminator a week ago. Because he not only came to be our exterminator, he stayed after when he didn't have to. When it was all over with and then it was just a matter of the cleanup, he stayed here for about another 2.5 hours just to clean this place up so that y'all wouldn't see what it took to get them out, and then the cleanup involved after getting them out. That was pretty significant time, but he was willing to give that time in order to help me do those things. And you say, does that make it there? Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I'm just saying, we all have those opportunities. We all have those opportunities. They're different for each one of us. Some of us have abilities to do this. Some of us are horse whisperers, and some of us are animal whisperers, and some of us are just good with yarn, and some of us are good with other things. But we all have a skill set. We all have an ability. Some of us just have the ability to be the kind word in season, where the Bible says that we're apples of gold and pictures of silver, talking about our words. Each one of us has some way we can serve God. And so here in this time, the people got so excited about doing something for God that we see something that we never see again in the Bible. We only see it here. And that's why I wanted to show it to you. It says, verse 3, they received of Moshe all the offering which the children of Israel had brought for the work of the service of the sanctuary to make it withal, and they brought yet unto him free offerings every morning. Once they got started, it became a routine for them. Hey, What are we going to take tomorrow to give to them? Oh, what are we going to take the next day to give to them? And they keep bringing stuff in and bringing stuff in. And it says, verse 4, and all the wise men that wrought all the work of the sanctuary came every man from his work which they made. Verse 5, and they spake unto Moshe, saying, the people bring much more than enough for the service of the work, which the Lord commanded to make. And Moshe gave commandment, and they caused it to be proclaimed throughout the camp, saying, let neither man nor woman make any more work for the offering of the sanctuary. So the people were restrained from bringing, for the stuff they had was sufficient for all the work to make it. And not only was it sufficient, it was too much. Boy, wouldn't that be a blessing to have? Too much. Sorry, y'all are doing too much. Stop washing the windows. Stop cleaning the carpets. Stop bringing in new materials. Stop supplying us with toilet paper. Stop. Can you imagine that? It just, there's so much going on. You're going, okay, where are we going to put all this stuff? That's what happened to them. But it was because they had a mind to say, okay, we're going to be a blessing to the work of God. We're going to do what God has allowed us to do. We're going to go out there and do the work. We're going to make the things. We're going to find the deals. I don't know if they were out there looking for precious stones or things. I don't know how they got all of the stuff accomplished, but I do know that the people had a mind to give to the Lord. And that's what we need to be, is that people that has a mind to say, I don't know what your duty is in the congregation, but it's different for all of us. We all have different abilities, different things that we can do, different ways that we can serve. But we all have those abilities. I think even of a man who every time he's at an auction sometimes will call me and say, does the church need X or Y or Z? You say, why? Because he sees a deal and he wants to know if we need that deal. I'm not offended by that. It may be that one of these times when he calls, I need that deal. But that's something that each one of us has the ability to do in different ways. Some of us it might be one way, and some of us it might be another way. But all of us has an opportunity to make a difference, to further the work of God. Amen. Thank you for joining us online.